Well, welcome, and thank you all for joining us either in person here in Sacramento at the headquarters of the Natural Resources Agency or online across the state. As you know, we hold this task force meeting quarterly, and every other meeting we are out in a different region across the state, learning from the leaders of that region just what's happening on wildfire resilience. And then every other meeting, we're back here in Sacramento, where we really focus in on the progress we're making as a task force and the progress we're making implementing the state's wildfire action plan. So we meet today and this month amidst significantly increased wildfire activity this summer. You all know this. After two fairly moderate years of wildfire activity is spiking. And we'll hear more from Chief Tyler and the regional forester, my partner, Jennifer Eberlein, on all those activities fighting fires this summer. But despite these challenges, I'm actually really energized and optimistic about California's ability to get our hands around catastrophic wildfire risk. First of all, our response capacity over the last few years has grown significantly. CAL FIRE, which I consider one of the most sophisticated wildfire fighting forces in the world, has been able to increase its capacity thanks to remarkable investments from the governor and the legislature. New planes, new helicopters, night-enabled helicopters, new technologies that have gained international attention, and more personnel to fight wildfires. And that is having a real impact on keeping wildfires small. Huge thanks to our partners at the Forest Service and the federal wildfire fighters with more resources than they've had in a very long time. So our response capacity has been strengthened significantly. At the same time, the primary focus of this task force is, of course, wildfire resilience, those proactive upfront projects and work we can do before wildfires ever come. And in that area, we collectively have made remarkable progress. Earlier this week, I was up in the Tahoe Basin for a conference, and I visited a fuel break in the Olympic Valley community. It was a fuel break that was planned by the local fire department and the community, funded by one of the CAL FIRE programs. One of 1,900 projects across the state that's already been completed or is underway to protect communities and landscapes from wildfire. Consider that number, 1,900 projects enabled, wildfire resilience projects that you, your communities, your organizations are driving. Also possible because of unprecedented state and federal funding. On the state side, $2.7 billion focused on these upfront wildfire resilience projects. And as my colleague Jennifer would tell you, unprecedented investments from the federal government as well. So we are making progress even as the wildfire challenge escalates with rising temperatures and climate change. I want to just touch on 4 areas of paradigm shift that I think we're making progress on, and the last one being the topic of today. When we talk about paradigm shift, we talk about sort of changing the approach and the whole framework of wildfire in California. First is this shift to really understanding the healthy relationship with fire that our lands need. We know that wildfire is part of our natural ecology, and that for over a century, we disconnected ourselves from that reality. There wasn't enough beneficial fire put on the ground, and as a result, our landscapes, our forests became overstocked and have exacerbated the challenges we now face. Thanks to CAL FIRE, thanks to the Forest Service, huge thanks to our tribal leaders who have been practicing managed fire since time immemorial. We're shifting that paradigm. More prescribed fire getting on the ground thanks to the U.S. Forest Service and CAL FIRE than ever before. More tribal partnerships learning from this traditional ecological knowledge than ever before. Really critically important, and as Patrick and others will note, a key part of our plan moving forward. So this is a paradigm shift underway where we're making progress. Secondly, we are taking a more comprehensive approach to wildfire resilience, recognizing that a healthy landscape is not only a wildfire resilient landscape, It's a healthy water infrastructure, recognizing that our forests, our watersheds are the green infrastructure of our water supply systems. A healthy landscape is a place for our remarkable biodiversity to thrive, for carbon to be sequestered from the atmosphere, for recreation to take place from people who live and visit these areas. And I'm so thankful of the work of the Wildfire Task Force building these regional resource kits and this approach to really recognize that these projects can not only protect us from catastrophic wildfire, but achieve all of these other goals. Paradigm shift number 3 is shifting shifting leadership to regions to map out what wildfire resilience looks like. As I've said before, the answer is not in Sacramento. The answers are not in Washington, D.C. with respect. It's local communities, it's regional fire leaders that know best how to build wildfire resilience in their regions. And this task force has been really key in shifting leadership to the regions. Our Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Program, run by the Department of Conservation, has shifted significant resources into each region to ensure that there are networks of leaders and groups that are planning out what are the priority projects. And our focus moving forward is to be able to provide funding, authority, support, but ultimately regions actually taking wildfire resilience into their own hands and shaping what that looks like. And paradigm shift number 4, which we're going to talk about today, is coordinating and optimizing the funding that we're focusing on wildfire resilience. Historically, our funding programs have been fairly disjointed or not coordinated. In California state government, I estimate we have about 40 programs focused on wildfire resilience across 22 departments. And there are numerous federal programs and state and local programs. So the focus of today is really how do we continue to coordinate, optimize funding to go as far as we can with each dollar we spend. It's been a remarkable last 5 years from a fiscal perspective, both from the federal government and the state government. I talked about $2.7 billion into wildfire resilience. That's great. We're now facing fiscal constraint. And so more than ever, we need to ensure that our funding goes far. And we have to recognize that it's not only our governments that are funding, but there's significant funding from other places, including our electrical utilities. Billions of dollars being invested by our electrical utilities. We have to continue to drive towards coordinating those investments for maximal wildfire resilience. I spent time last year, at some point last year, with the leader of our Office of Energy Infrastructure Safety. And we went up to the Tahoe Basin and spent time with Liberty, which is a investor-owned utility in the basin, and the Forest Service in that area, and understood the coordination that was taking place between the vegetation removal under distribution and transmission lines and this broader vegetation management within the Forest Service lands and the national forest there. Optimizing, synergizing, getting better bang for the buck with the utility investments and the Forest Service investments. So to me, that's emblematic of what we want to do, which is improve the coordination of how we're spending our money, because moving forward, we know that what we've done so far is only a down payment on what we need to do moving forward. So I'm really energized with the meeting, and as always, I'm so thankful for the partnership of the U.S. Forest Service. I'll just say that, Jen, I'm learning every month of all of the progress that you're making within the Forest Service, whether it's record levels of prescribed fire, record amounts of funding, new strategies coming from your chief in Washington, D.C. So let me turn it over to you for opening thoughts.
Thanks, Wade. I'm done. You covered it. I think that was fantastic. So again, everybody, welcome. Really appreciate you all here. Thank you, Wade, for those great opening remarks too, because obviously spot on. I really enjoy these business meetings, as I call it, where we're just getting into how are we really operationalizing the work that we're doing collectively around here. We have the incredible regional meetings that we're able to learn from each other. This is a good accountability structure for me. Being able to see, like Wade had said, how are we making progress on those 4 points that he was really outlining? What is inspiring to me, again, is the level of integration that we're working on. And we want to hear what's working well and what we need to work on. You know, we know it's not perfect. You all know it's not perfect, but how do we strive to get better as we're moving forward? And this is one way to look at the integration of our funding and our authority opportunities where we're able to really make some headway for forest health and risk reduction. That's one of the biggest things. And I agree with Wade. We are seeing so much activity. Certainly on the Forest Service side, have had more prescribed fire controlled burn acres than we have in a long time. So that's exciting. We've reorganized and really trying to learn how we're doing better on operationalizing controlled burns, making sure prescribed fires, making sure that we have the right resources. And we also know we can't do it alone. So I'm really looking forward to getting even better, more efficient and effective of how we look at making fuels treatments for that forest health that we have. One thing that Wade was talking about also that I'm excited about, and this task force is such a leader in, I'm going to say across the whole country, from at least my perspective, is that we're really used to talking about outputs. What's the acreage? You know, what's the lines? What's the line on the map? What's the outcomes that we're going for? Biodiversity, carbon sequestration, water security, energy security, healthy landscapes, healthy communities, risk reduction in communities, recreation opportunities, vibrant economies. Those are the outcomes we're getting to. And we tend to only look at outputs. So with this task force, it's so exciting to see what are those pillars that we're talking about? What are the outcomes that we're really going for with the major investments that we've had? You know, 800 million last year alone, just with the Forest Service, coupled with the billions that the state is doing, we're really able to make some headway. And that's definitely with all of your help. You know, as Wade said, you guys have the ideas. You're certainly seeing the gaps that we need to know about. And that's one of the strengths of this task force. So I'm really looking forward to it. I got to mention too, it's getting sporty out there with the fire season, folks. I know Joe's gonna go into this a little bit more, but definitely it's active. Obviously, you guys know firefighter and public safety are the top priorities for us. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where those fuel treatments have happened on the ground and how and if and when that made an effect in terms of what we're doing with our firefighting and our forest health capacity. So throughout the season, we're hoping to get some stories out to be able to show this could have gone a different way if we hadn't had these fuel treatments on the ground. So very excited about that. Just want to make sure you all know we're all taking very assertive action on our fires. We have a 98% success rate for initial attack. I know there's some things sometimes that don't go the way we actually want it, but we're on it pretty quickly. We have historic levels of funding. We also are able, at least with a Forest Service, be able to capture and garner all the resources across the country to help with our partners. No one can do this alone. And I know that Joe's going to follow up with some more specifics on that too. So just want to make sure you know that that's obviously something we all pay attention to, and we're working really closely and partner with everyone. And then I'll just say, again, our wildfire crisis strategy, as you know, in the Forest Service is our #1 priority outside of and in addition to the health and safety of our firefighters and all of our employees. So we're still moving strongly out on that. We have other funding opportunities that will be coming out. Certainly, you'll see some of the community wildfire defense grants. We just awarded some in May, and we're going to have another round later on this August or this summer. So please take a look at that when you see it. And also, I just want to say, as part of our outcomes, we also are looking at recreation opportunities. So the agency just launched a Reimagine Recreation program and project that we want to make sure we're nesting into our recreation subcommittee that we have here with the task force too. So all those outcomes that we're trying to pay attention to and look at. And then finally, I want to introduce my new colleague with the region. Valerie Hipkins is our new station director for Pacific Southwest Research Station. She is taking Richard Barheit's place as the station director, as well as on this task force. And Valerie is coming from our national office. Richard moved to a new position in Colorado. So Valerie, just a couple of words you want to say in terms of a welcome. And she has a long history in California too, I'll just say too.
Well, a Fresno native, born and raised. Thank you, Jen. And thank you to everyone. And it's just a privilege to be here. You know, I was at PSW for some years. And my last role was as an acting PSW station director around 2018, 19. And so I would be coming to the task force meetings. And so when I came back into this position, this is week 2, I was able to re-engage with the task force. And it's just an amazing growth that I've seen. And it's so encouraging about the direction collectively everyone's taking. So it's just fantastic to be here. I'm also the station director of the Pacific Northwest Station, and that's covering Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. And one of the really interesting things about doing this is I think research inside the Forest Service is really about increasing our understanding and also finding solutions. And I think those solutions kind of cross boundaries. They cross administrative boundaries, political boundaries, geographic boundaries. And being able to look at research from a Pacific perspective, looking for those solutions, I think is really encouraging. And it was mentioned about, local solutions. And that's where our scientists, I think, in our Forest Service R&D have those local connections. They're connected to other research entities, universities, other scientists, the scientists within other organizations. They're connected to the managers who care about all of these lands. They deal with, of course, our National Forest System lands, but also they're conducting research that influences other lands, other state and federal lands, private lands. So it's those solutions that they're working on with all of you that I think are going to make the difference. So just really thrilled to be here and looking forward to continuing work.
Valerie, thank you so much, and very excited to have you on this, on the leadership body of the task force. And as you know, science is the basis for all of our decision making. So not only is the research station so critically important, but so is our science advisory committee. And we're deeply thankful for both the academics and the scientists that serve on that committee. It's an opportune moment to just point out and acknowledge our other leaders on the executive committee. We talked about local and regional leadership being absolutely key. Ed Valenzuela serves as a county supervisor in Siskiyou and is here on behalf of CSAC, which is the California State Association of Counties. We also have Supervisor Doug Teeter from Butte County, not here today, but he serves as the leader of, or a representative, I should say, of the Rural Counties Caucus in the state. We have our colleague, my colleague, who leads on so many issues regarding climate and this connection between local and state government, Sam Asefa, who leads the department, or I should say the Office of Planning and Research for Governor Newsom. And then we have Katie Landau, our colleague from California Environmental Protection Agency, representing Secretary Garcia here today. So, and then I should say we have Don Hankins also on this executive committee. He leads both the Indigenous Stewardship Network as well as is a professor at Chico State. So it's a great executive committee. Huge thanks for everything that you do to steer our work. Let me turn it over to Chief Tyler. We thought it was important as we talk about this bigger, broader question of funding and the broad work of the task force, critically important to understand where we sit in fire season right now and what you can report out from CAL FIRE's perspective. Chief.
Yeah, thank you. Joe Tyler, the Chief and Director at CAL FIRE. So we took 2 great years in 22 and 23 to be able to implement many of the priorities of the task force, many of the prevention efforts and planning and implementation. And I really hand it to all of our grantees, all of our state, federal, and tribal partners in getting that done. And I think that what we have seen so far and what we will see as we go through the 2024 season is many opportunities in which the work that is being done on the ground have altered the effects of the wildfires that are occurring in California. And so we found ourselves in a situation, and the governor, in fact, brought this up to me just a couple of days ago, and that was when we looked at going into 2024, we found ourselves in a position where our reservoirs were full and we were getting plenty of rain. In fact, because of that plenty of rain, we deferred some of the augmentation in the spring as we ramped up into our peak staffing currently. But due to the heat, due to the north winds, the fuels drastically changed. Due to a lightning siege that occurred over the Fresno County area on June 25th, it was unexpected and unpredicted by anybody. It started many fires in the Central Valley. So when we look at where we are in the fire season 2024, arguably you could say that there are some large fires going on, but I look at it also as large and damaging fires. And we have found ourselves where there are 4 larger fires that are burning across the state right now, but it has been more constant than it has been large, extremely large and damaging fires moving forward. And that wears on all of our resources, but it makes it capable to fight each one of those wildfires as we continue through this season. Now, it's interesting to note that the fires that we've had so far this year, one of our peak days of new fires in the state of California was between the 4th of July and the 5th of July, and probably not surprising, 227 new wildfire starts just in that 24-hour period alone. And I think that that's important because we talk about 4 large fires across the state, but 227 fires occurred in that 24-hour period, meaning there were so many fires that we never hear about because of the initial attack resources extinguished those fires. So far this year, we've had 3,630 fires that have burned almost 229,000 acres. Now, that is slightly lower than the 5-year average by about 100 fires at the same time. And it is significantly higher than 2023, but we know that we had a moderated year in 22 and 23. But in our 5-year average, we're under 50,000 acres of vegetation burned, and today at almost 229,000 acres. Pretty significant, again, from the hot, dry conditions and the winds that have blown. And as we said earlier, as we were addressing that we thought we were going to be in a moderated spring, this really changed the outlook of our predictive services units that we have in the north and the south. And they recognize that as we go into July and August, we're going to find what they're predicting to be above average fire potential across the Sacramento Valley, the Central Valley, and by September, potentially along the coastal region from about San Benito, Monterey down to San Diego. As we go into October, our predictive services units are showing that it's going to moderate much to the south coast, but we'll have to watch as that evolves as we go through the season as well. Really, we again are at 4 fires. I will speak to them, but they are all primarily on some of our national forests. So if Jen wants to jump in, certainly you can, but this goes to show the relationship that we have between our local, state, and federal partners. So as I talk about these, we'll start with the Tahoe National Forest, the Royal Fire. Is currently at 215 acres. It's really staying within its footprint. It's in unified command between the United States Forest Service and CAL FIRE. That one will probably come off of our radar here in the next day or so. The Vista Fire is burning in San Bernardino County in the San Bernardino Mountains. It's currently 2,810 acres, 13% contained. Burning again in steep, rugged country. Some of that is inaccessible. And it is in unified command between a California Interagency Incident Management Team and San Bernardino County Fire. The Lake Fire is probably our largest fire in the state right now. It's burning in the foothills of Santa Barbara County. It's currently 36,707 acres, burning in the footprint of the 2007 Zaca Fire. This is called the Lake Fire. It is in unified command between Santa Barbara County Fire, United States Forest Service, and the Los Padres. It's got a California Interagency Incident Management Team on that fire on the north end, and it has a CAL FIRE Incident Management Team on the south end of that fire as well. Again, working in great coordination there. And then we have the Shelley Fire. The Shelley Fire is burning in the Klamath National Forest. It is 10,225 acres, burning near the community of Etna, California. It is currently said that 10,225 in brush and timber, again in unified command between the Klamath National Forest with a California Interagency Incident Management Team, and the local unit, the Siskiyou unit, is working in Unified Command. As we continue, this is my plea, as I said in the press conference a couple of days ago, the dried herbaceous fuels, the fine flashy fuels, the grasses are really taking those ignitions right now. They're running them into the brush, and thus, as we're seeing on the Shelley, running them into the timber as well. So I ask everybody to be prepared for wildfire, to maintain their defensible space, to maintain their home hardening or improving upon their home hardening, finding opportunities to make sure you have a plan, have a go bag, know where your families are going to go and where you're going to meet up in the event of an evacuation. That is the update for today.
Thanks so much, Joe. Can you just mention the remarkable improvement of your website, fire.ca.gov, where people can actually get this real-time information?
Thank you for that reminder. So our communications office and our research and development program really took a step this year. They've been working on it for quite some time to develop and bring near real-time solutions for transparency to the public. And so we found this opportunity by going to fire.ca.gov. And when you go there, the homepage is going to show an incident portal, and it's going to show you total acres burned, total structures burned, any fatalities, total fires for the year. But it allows you to see the entire state of California. It'll show icons by active fires. You can click on each one of those icons and it'll bring you into a more detailed approach where it'll take you to the cameras from Alert California that are looking at that fire. Will take you to evacuation information by your local law enforcement agencies. We'll be able to provide near real-time information, and that's provided, one, by the incident commanders on the ground, two, by the intelligence aircraft in the air, and it even comes down to the keystrokes by the dispatchers. Will be providing updates to this website. Additionally, you can watch our aircraft flying across the state. It's all available on this website. So I encourage you to go there, fire.ca.gov.
It's really quite remarkable. I'll also say, just to mention, because many may not know about this, but is Alert California, which is another initiative that you all have driven forward in the last few years in partnership with the University of California, San Diego. Remarkably, you can go online right now and look at real-time video, I think across about 1,000 cameras across the state, overlooking landscapes, which is really that vigilant monitoring to understand if there is wildfire that starts. And remarkably, this is technologically advanced through the use of generative artificial intelligence. So the computer will actually understand if there's an anomaly in the image because of smoke, and it will automatically communicate with the local fire service. And I think in just the first few months that this was operative, there were dozens of cases of wildfire starts that got automatically communicated to the local fire service, saving significant amount of time for that response, being able to keep the fire small. Anything you want to add to that?
No, as of this date, 118 was the last number I was given, 118 acknowledgements of an anomaly, a new fire that were reported to the dispatch centers prior to the first 911 caller.
So there's always more work to do and always more progress to make. And as I said, this challenge will only get more acute given climate change and increasing temperatures. But remarkably, thanks to your efforts, thanks to our collaboration, we are making significant progress. Jen.
Hey, yeah, thanks. And Joe, thank you for going through the fires. And I just want to acknowledge, I think in front of almost every Forest Service fire, it's steep and rugged. That was it. But also just to recognize, those are all in unified command. And I want to say that we have to rely on each other. It's a pleasure to work with our CAL FIRE partners on this, that we're working together as the best we can. We've got different missions sometimes, but it's that recognition that we're all in this. We all live in the same communities, we're all care, and we all have those same landscapes that we really want to be able to protect and have the best, most efficient actions on the ground. So thank you, Joe, for that too.
The last point I'd make before we move into the crux of the meeting is just our eternal gratitude and appreciation for the men and women out there fighting these fires in temperatures well over 100 degrees as, you know, we and our communities flee from these fires, we have thousands of brave Californians that are moving right into the fire to keep us safe. So as we talk about this broader work, we always need to keep that front of mind. It's just those people out there ultimately putting their lives on the line to protect us. Let's turn it over to Patrick Wright, who of course does a great job as our executive director of the task force.